would like to go ahead and get started. Today, I'd like to welcome all of you to the session and quickly acknowledge and our grateful thanks for the support for this competition from both Tupperware Brands and Tata Consultancy Services. And I would like to congratulate all the winners once again. What I would like to do in this session is briefly introduce the theme and give you a quick summary of the backgrounds of all of our panelists as well as the topic of their essay. And I'll just have a small general question for each of them and a specific one. And then I would really like to open it up to the audience for you to be able to interact with all of the panelists here who are all doing very interesting things. And let me get started. So we had, as we mentioned yesterday, over 140 essays from 40 different countries for this contest. So it was very challenging to select the winners. And they were all asked to submit an essay along and/or a short video covering the theme Lost in a Digital Wonderland, Finding a Path in the Global Knowledge Society, which emerged, of course, from melding of a lot of the themes addressed in this conference and from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. And some of the questions that they asked are, what are some of the toughest challenges they're facing today with regard to an increasingly digitized world? How are you dealing with the current transformation arising from new technologies? Whether you believe technology is part of the problem and or solution, what are the risks and opportunities? And if you have succeeded in finding a way to use technology to create new and innovative business models, and we welcomed contributions to address these questions, either from a cultural perspective, a personal perspective, or an educational point of view. And I think one of the things that really struck me as I was reading this is that there were very diverse and very different answers to these questions. And I think it's also a tribute to Drucker's legacy that people found not only intellectual inspiration, but a set of transcendent values that helped them navigate these very difficult questions. And they were something that could be embraced by both thinkers and doers. So let me briefly introduce, beginning with the essay contest winners. We have in our first place Divya Aggarwal from India, whose essay was entitled Being the Alice Generation. She's a PhD student at the XLRI University in Jamshedpur, and she's also an avid painter. And in her essay, she talked about 3 big opportunities for technology to improve finance, management, and accountability in society. We have Adarsh Ramesh, also from India. He's an engineering student with aspirations to become an entrepreneur, who talked about how innovators are the force that transform information into knowledge. And we have Sam Goan at the end from the University of Queensland, who reflected on the role of management in changing times and talked about applying Drucker's concept of management objectives and using Bell Labs as an inspiration for how we can look at innovation in the future. In the winners in the entrepreneur manager category, here to my left we have Ananthanarayanan Venkarteswaran, whose title was Lost in a Digital Wonderland. And he is the founder of Tech Divine Creative Services in India and the author of a social media marketing brand ROI Guide. He wrote about how he has built his company to align with his values using technology to give opportunities to those who might not otherwise have them. And we also have Isabella Akinseye from Nigeria, who's a writer, editor, and founder of a website dedicated to the Nollywood film industry called Nolly Silver Screen. And I thought she had a really interesting story of how she used technology to create opportunities for herself, acquire skills, and launch a product of her own. And we have Wolfgang Sieberth from Austria, who is an educational advisor from the group called Culture Goes Europe. And he reflected on his experiences teaching children to suggest ways in which we might introduce technology with and allow people to explore it with a trusted guide. So let me just begin now by giving the floor to each one. I think maybe we can just go down the line, starting with Anant or Sam, you get to take a vote. Who wants to start? Okay, sure. We'll go down the line this way. I think just one brief question I would like all of you to give some color on is, what is it in Peter Drucker's work that inspired you? Because you're all doing very interesting and different things. So if you could just briefly explain what it was that struck you about his work.
Good morning, everyone. Wonderful to be here today. Peter Drucker has been a very profound influence in the way I've worked, even before I got my management degree. His work about employing organizations, central managerial issues has tremendously influenced the way I have impacted or added any value to my company's employees, or the way we have actually taken different steps in working within our organization. But having said that, there is one particular aspect about Peter Drucker's work which touched me personally a lot, which has changed radically the way I actually worked professionally and even personally in my life. The fact is, we know Peter Drucker to be the founder of modern management with every single practice in business, but there is this aspect which he spoke about with respect to how we view the world. There is something which was very, very profound and very deep. He said, the world is built out of intangibles, filled with ideas and brands. Stepping back and letting fate move you is a sound strategy, because it lets you open your mind to opportunities which you never knew were possible or existing. Now, this is something which was very simple, but it had a tremendous influence on the way I perceived and started looking at life, because it changed radically the way I questioned everything. Now, the first issue which you normally have is, what are the problems that a company faces? What are the problems that the clients face? So for this, Drucker had a very interesting thing to say in many of his books. He said, I'm not going to give you the answers to your problems. There are many ways you can approach problems. Rather, I'll give you the questions that you need to ask. So this is one aspect which has touched me a lot from Peter Drucker. Thank you.
For me, Peter Drucker is, I'm inspired by how visionary he is, because, you know, at the time when he was born, if you wouldn't have imagined that we would go from, say, industrialization to now this knowledge economy where, you know, it's what you have in your brain, not what you can do with your hands, that's actually, you know, changing things. Like, for him to just have been there in that moment and been able to sort of see the future and be able to predict things that we're now experiencing. And coming from an arts background, you know, in Nigeria, when you are in sciences, you're seen as somebody who's intelligent, who, you know, is more brainy. I had the opportunity to do sciences, but I chose to do arts. And despite doing well in school, I got this feedback from teachers: oh, you're running away from competition, you're trying to, you know, take the easy way out by doing, you know, an art subject. But, you know, in this knowledge economy, that so-called art that is abstract, you're actually able to sort of monetize it and be able to, you could almost sell knowledge. So it's not about how I'm able to create, say, the next invention that's going to maybe toast bread or slice bread, but it's about how I can take information, as he said, process it into knowledge and become somebody who contributes to the economy, even from that arts background. And I like the fact that he's been able to see what the future is going to be. And as we were saying yesterday, you're able to actually use what is up there to actually, you know, influence the machines, influence technology, and even sort of predict the future. And I think that's how he's been able to affect me.
Thank you. Good morning. Well, Peter Drucker once noted that he thinks or believes that society rearranges itself every few decades. And this made me thinking, and he was referring to values, worldviews, and so on one side I do agree with him, and on the other one I think I would like to challenge him and say, well, I don't know if it's a rearrangement of values, but are we evoluting the way we communicate with each other? I mean, I think that at the moment very much I'm dealing with the question of communication, and I think the question that inspired me in his thinking was, is the way we communicate changing? I mean, fundamentally changing. So that was.
Hi, good morning everyone. Thank you for the great opportunity. I got exposed to Peter Drucker's ideas when I was graduating, and I can safely say that it's his ideas and work has really inspired me and helped me achieve whatever milestones I've achieved in life so far. In personal life, if I talk about, he talked about planned abandonment, which is focusing on what is your strengths and leaving in a planned way what you think is not important. And his ideas of how to plan your week in terms of using your power hours in the midweek and using the weekends and the early days of the week for non-priority work really helped me sail through in my coursework. And being a research student, I'm still able to implement his viewpoints in my day-to-day life. And even if I talk about professionally, his theory of business is one which really helped me imbibe aspects of planned abandonment, focusing on core competencies. And I look forward to implementing his ideas and viewpoints throughout my life so that I can achieve my successful milestones year by year. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Adarsh from India. I just want to say that to me, Peter Drucker and his teachings are like a man or a woman you start dating. And eventually, as time progresses, you start to like them. And then as time progresses forward, you start to love them. And then you come to accept them for who they are. And every time you look up to something new and you expect something new each time. So that's how it is. And I wanted to start a non-profit in my place called Mysore. And when I told my parents and my colleagues and other lawyers and accountants, they were like, you're in the final year of your engineering. Why do you want to do this? Just focus on your academics. You can get some gray hairs and then start doing social work. But I went online later and I wanted to write my own trust deed and start up my own organization with my own laws. And when I was searching, I came across two of Peter Drucker's most influential quotes, influential to me though. One of it was, whenever you see a successful business, someone once made a courageous decision. And the second one, it's a big one though, please bear with me. The non-profit institution neither supplies goods or services nor controls. Its product is neither a pair of shoes nor an effective regulation. Its product is a changed human being. The non-profit institutions are human change agents. Their product is a cured patient, a child that learns, a young man or a woman grown into a self-respecting adult, a changed human life altogether. So these two quotes had profound impact on me, and I won't say this is the one which drove me to start, but this was surely the one which kept me going and wanted me to keep exploring. And I saw that Peter Drucker was an author, he was an educator, and he was also an entrepreneur, and he had significant impact on people. So even I am an author, I have a copyrighted work, it's not yet published though, and I'm a social entrepreneur, and I'm an engineer, and I want to become someone who can influence people. So I think Peter Drucker is the right role model for me, and I hope to be a social leader or a change leader one day, and I hope to see the change I want to be. Thank you.
Okay, I think mine's probably the least detailed, but I think what really inspired me about Peter Drucker was he saw the organisation sort of for what it was, a group of people, coming together to reach a common goal, and he really introduced the human aspect, and I thought, that was really important. And as the years go on, it seems that we're getting further away from that, and that's why I think it's important that this forum exists to put his ideas forward, and hopefully that goes forward into the future. So that's probably the biggest inspiration for me in regards to Peter Drucker. So
I think one of the things that really came through in the essays, some of them that are represented up here and other ones that we read, is that a lot of the essays from the Western world really raised the concerns about privacy and kind of more the dark side of technology, and those from developing countries really more talked about the promise and potential of technology to uplift people around them. And so I'm just going to direct a few of my questions. I think Isabella had a very interesting story, because I think young people are often admonished to get off their devices and connect on a human level. And you had quite the opposite experience. You went in for a job interview, they liked you, and they said you had no digital presence, so leave. But you were ultimately able to use technology to counter that and acquire skills, construct an identity, and a successful business for yourself. So please let us know a little bit more about how that all worked.
So I went for an interview for a web editor for DSTV.com. They're the largest cable producers, cable network in Nigeria. And, everything went well. I'm passionate about the Nigerian film industry, which is known as Nollywood. So you have Bollywood, Hollywood, Nollywood. And it's really big. In terms of production, we're number 2. We make, over thousands of copies every year of films. So everything went well, and at the end they said, how many Twitter followers do you have? None. How many Facebook followers? None. How many people on Instagram? None. And I'm thinking, if you Google my name, you would see a lot of articles, but just because I'm not in that social media presence, why should that count against me? But what they were looking for was some kind of digital influence. And, taking that, I just used that inspiration to go ahead and launch into the deep and actually use that technology to start the magazine, start the website, promoting the Nollywood and the film industry. And I think that's one of the benefits of technology, because someone was asking me 2 days ago here at the conference, how can I watch a Nollywood movie? And I said, well, thanks to technology, we have video streaming sites, we have mobile applications. So I could give you something, you Google it, you download it, you could go to my website, see short films, and I was able to use that idea of technology to shine the light on Nollywood. And most people know Nigeria for bad things, but the more we know Nigeria for good things like the film industry, the better for us.
I thought it was also interesting that you were able to build gaps in the skills that you perceived by using, learning graphic design and all these kinds of things relatively independently. How did you go about figuring out, seemingly on your own, what the gaps were, and how did you go about addressing them using technology?
I think the beautiful thing about technology is that we're all connected in this space. So, I could be in Nigeria and I could be communicating with somebody in Australia who has a skill set and who I can exchange ideas with. And having that worldwide internet, these days you go on YouTube, you can get videos and everything. You go on websites, you can get tutorials. And being in that technological space, it forces you to just sort of learn and make up the rules. So how do you do a PR strategy online? In my background, working for Nestle full-time, I do corporate communications, but it's for me to sort of take that same knowledge and apply it on the digital space. And working in the digital forces you to actually learn very fast, because everything keeps changing, like it was said yesterday. The pace is like, average is not good enough. So I invested my time, I met with people, I networked, I got some lessons, and forcing myself to do a magazine every month actually forced me to improve my skills, and knowing that, there's an audience out there, so I have to deliver. I might not see them physically, but I know when I go to the back end of my website, I know who is coming. I know. So it just forces you to sort of learn. And the beauty is that when you make a mistake, you can click the delete button and re-edit it again, and you can go to a successful website and see what has worked for them, what hasn't worked for them, and adapt it. And it's a continuous process, and I think that's why knowledge is so important, being able to network both physically and in the cyberspace to develop those skills, and working at it every day helped.
Wolfgang, you actually had an interesting point of view where you looked at a lot of your experiences dealing with children and basically came away with the point of view that technology is not good or bad, but maybe we all need a trusted guide, and maybe that's a role that management could play. Could you share some of your experiences?
Yeah, I think that it was mentioned yesterday also. I think the schooling system, the formal schooling system that we have, starting from kindergarten to university and after that, was formed and designed in a time where maybe the circumstances were as they were. But I think we have to realize today, and this is for me a fundamental change, that learning becomes a different thing. And I work mostly with children between 3 and 5 years of age. And there we still have this kind of learning. It seems just that we change throughout the schooling system later on. I mean, yesterday someone said that our formal system is designed in a way that 99% is you do what someone tells you to do, and 1% is innovation, or the task to be innovative. And I think it should be exactly the other way around. And with internet, this is our potential. This is the potential I see with this technology, because we can do it with this technology. But what we need, and this is maybe one crucial issue, we need to educate or to develop skills that a teacher of the future has in order to accompany this person while walking into the virtual space. The teachers of today, the teachers I had also, maybe possibly even us who are here, see a lot of risks in the internet, and there are a lot of risks. This is nothing we can hide. There is a lot of criminality going on, very severe criminality even, but that's also the reality in the real world. So I see this not as a reason not to use it, but more as a challenge to say, okay, what do we need to improve to be able to use it? And one thing definitely is that finally we educate our teachers to be able to use internet. I think internet, even, well, not with the 5-year-olds, but I've also been working with 10 to 17-year-olds, and they have, yeah, may I quickly, sorry, use your phone. When they sit in a circle and we talk about a subject, and they take their phone and they use it, then most certainly you can be sure that they're going to process the thing you just said to them. So they're going to make a joke to another person that they like and tell, hey, look, whatever it is. So they're processing this, and this is not being taken seriously. That actually what they're doing is processing what they get, even if that leads to them not anymore being part of the conversation. So this is what is making the life difficult for the person who is delivering a speech or a workshop or whatever, is that, oh, all of a sudden people are hiding and not anymore in this conversation. So that is a difficulty. But the content that they're exchanging with someone else is very valuable, and I think it needs us to understand this processing, because then I can use it. I can also then, as a facilitator, to use my phone and say, okay, hey, you know, I'm here, or whatever, you know, engage in this online conversation. So we need training regarding that.
That reminds me of one of my professors in business school who got so sick of us with his laptops open all the time. He said, all I want is a pointer that puts whatever you're looking at on the screen. Keep everyone in discipline.
You must know that most of the speakers today, they try to prepare their own presentation in tweets. I was last week, 2 weeks ago in San Francisco at Talent Connect. You know, this is this LinkedIn event. And I can tell you that more and more speakers now, when they are speaking, they are using tweet ways of speaking, if I can say so. So that people can easily also catch what they want to say and then propagate it to the entire world. This is a complete game changer, in my opinion. So you are absolutely right in that sense.
Now let me move on to one of the students. Divya, you spoke about how technology can actually bring about transformation. I thought you had a very optimistic view on what it can do to improve accountability, improve management, and many other aspects of our lives, and improve finance and inclusion of many marginalized populations. Can you talk about some of the themes in your essay?
Sure. For me, I view technology as a torch of liberty, which can help us diversify in a lot of areas. So if I talk about financial inclusion, it's personally something which is also very close to me. I'm currently working with my university and Citibank on a project where we are leveraging technology and social media to promote financial literacy at the bottom of the pyramid. So it's something which is only possible through technology. You can't, if I can just deep dive more into the topic, if you look at financial institutions, it's difficult for them to operate and penetrate into rural India. For them, the cost is too high to set up a proper office. So it's only through technology and portable ATMs through which they can do that. And if everyone can be financially included, that's how prosperity can trickle down to the bottom of the pyramid. So in my opinion, technology is one parameter which can help us remove all the barriers. And even if we talk about management accountability, it's only through technology through which decentralization is actually possible. And personally, I believe that if you talk about key concerns in technology, it's not technology which is harmful to us, it's how the human behavior which needs to be curtailed. So it's again a debate on human being rational or irrational. So as long as rationality is there in human behavior, technology will only help us progress. It's only when we become irrational, technology becomes harmful.
Sam, you talked about using early technology companies like Bell Labs as a metaphor for what the manager's role might be in the future, and you suggested really that, in the knowledge economy, that very light touch and some of other aspects of Drucker would be a reasonable guide for people, well into the future. If you could elaborate a little bit on your beliefs about what the role of the manager will be. I think there was some debate about that yesterday where, so I would like your perspective.
Yeah, so the Bell Labs was the research arm of AT&T, the large telecommunications company in the United States, and they invented the transistor, the silicon solar cell, the world's first satellite, the C programming language for software, and all these innovations had come out of just one place. And I was reading about the Bell Labs, and what I found it was actually very similar to sort of management by objectives, which what Drucker had said. And I don't know if Drucker had actually seen the Bell Labs, but I do know the Bell Labs was very similar to IBM, which he really liked. It was sort of where the managers sort of play an assistant role to their subordinates, and they sort of just let the subordinates do their own thing, and they have a lot of trust. It's a very, very much a trust thing. They have a lot of trust that they'll be able to do all these sort of things by themselves, but they sort of supply them with the resources they need to get those goals met. And I sort of thought that in the future that would be a really good way for innovation to flourish, and especially for the younger generation as well. I mean, we've got so much technology now at our hand, at our fingertips, that the average employee now has been so much more empowered with what they can do. And so I thought that's a really a really good sort of template for how you might manage innovation in the future. So yeah.
Really good. Ananth, you actually talked about your experience as a kid when you're asked in the classroom, what do you want to do when you grow up, and said, I want to be happy, and both other students and teachers laughed. And I think you seem to have stuck to that goal as your objective. And one thing that really struck me was your real confidence that technology can be used to give opportunity and create an organization that is largely virtual, but really inclusive of people who, for whatever reason, either through opt-out or lack of options, because of family circumstances, for them to participate in the labor force and do it in a way that really still creates the feeling of an organization that's in one place. I mean, if you could tell us a little bit about how you do that and how you include many more people in the conversation.
Well, this starts with during my school days, like you were just talking about it. The teacher asked me, everybody in the classroom saying, what do you want to do when you grow up? That's a normal question, right? Something which all of us have heard. So everybody said doctors and engineers, and I just stood up and I said, I want to be happy when I grow up. So, so the idea was very simple. So I've been working with a lot of companies about 6 to 8 years, and I realized I was never happy. I was working in sales, I was working in marketing, I was working in product. I was never happy. I wanted to do something different. I wanted to become an entrepreneur. So one day I finally decided, okay, let's be an entrepreneur. It's a technology world. There is no drawback. There is nothing to stop me from starting my own company. And it's a digital advertising company. So I said, okay, all I need is a laptop and an internet connection. The moment I figured that out, I realized that anybody can become an entrepreneur, because today technology gives you that flexibility to reach out to clients across globally without actually having to have huge capitals, huge investments. Now I took this to the next level and I said, okay, now if I can do this, then I can maybe get people to work in the company who probably wouldn't get opportunities otherwise. Let's say they were homemakers who were previously working, now they had kids and they couldn't go back to work. Then there were doting fathers who had just had kids and they were at homes that they couldn't find time to travel. Commuting is a very painful process in any country, especially in Mumbai. So it takes about 4 hours if you want to go to and fro, so you forget where you're going and where you're heading and you're coming back. So, so technology played a very crucial part there. So what we did is we connected everybody using technology tools and webinars and so many other things, and we could just log in from our own homes just using a laptop, and everything was digital, right? The work is anyway digital. So we could actually start working early in the morning about 9:30 and work till about 6:30 p.m. Yeah. Yeah. So, and the best part was nobody got tired. Nobody felt like they were doing a job. Everybody enjoyed doing because they were at the luxury of their home. Now we always had that. We always talk about telecommuting. There is a disadvantage that you lose that human connect, right? So what we did is we used to meet up across using web technologies like Hangouts, and we used to have that face-to-face conversations, and we used to even meet up once in a week or something of that sort, so that we always have that connect. The idea is we can always view technology in both perspectives. We can view it as a negative impact on us, or we can have a positive impact on us. Yesterday, somebody said a very, very beautiful quote. They said, we are trying to be together to stay alone using technology. It's very true. So when we use technology to actually connect and have a regular conversation, a real-time conversation, the barrier is already broken. There is nothing called as human connect is missing, because you're always there face to face. In fact, I felt technology has brought so many of us closer. Today, this would not have been possible. There is live streaming happening across. My parents are watching from India. They're excited. They said, I have not traveled all the way here, but I can still see you speak. So technology has that potential to break down barriers. And most importantly, I found out that a lot of people have that opinion that technology cuts jobs. In fact, in my case, I found out it's totally the other way around. We have created job opportunities for people who would not otherwise get access to jobs. These are all professionally qualified graduates and professionals across different industries. They could get jobs because they were ready to work from their own comfort of their home. And yes, the only thing missing is you need to trust that they are doing their job. That is something you have to accept. But there are always ways which you can always monitor whether the work is being done. So technology has actually boosted the entrepreneurial spirit. And like, it's very obvious today, everybody can become an entrepreneur. Everybody can pursue their dream. All you need is to just start. That's it.
Adarsh, you really talked about the role of technology, but you had a big emphasis on the human mind as kind of a percolator for transforming a lot of the information that we get bombarded with into knowledge and focusing ultimately on consumers. If you could talk a little bit about your view.
What I think was the human element is most required, even though the technology is progressing and even though everything is being modified or changed or replaced by technology and machines, the human element is always required. I just was thinking about this today morning. Technology is required to make work easier and to make it productive, but not let the technology do all the work. So it should be an enabler and not replace you. And with this, I designed the thing called Percolator, and it's like there is data everywhere, and before there being a great transformation or you stepping onto the next level, I want you to think another level after the transformation. So as it was being discussed yesterday, what will happen if everybody are knowledge workers, or maybe if 9% become knowledge workers, what will happen to the other percentage of the people? Right now they are not satisfied with their jobs, but later they won't have jobs at all. So what is your solution to that? So what I want to think is that before thinking about the transformation, you need to think a step forward and think, what are you going to do when you become a knowledge worker to others? How are you going to replace this change and replacement of all the humans by machines, and what are you going to do to the people? And what is your solution to ensure transparency? What is your solution to ensure security? And on the security front, I have another thing that it's all based on perspectives. Like Mr. Lincoln once said, you can either see that the roses have thorns or the thorns have roses. It's for every productive thing, there is someone doing a counterproductive thing, and to counter that counterproductive, you again do a counterproductive thing. So this is an infinite loop, and it keeps going always. So the only solution out of this is to have the human element involved in it, and to see things clearly in the perspective of human beings and what you want in general. And the law of nature is achieving equilibrium. So any change you do, it tends to come back to its original position. So the change shouldn't be a transformation or a revolution or a one bang. It should be evolution, and evolution has proved that it can sustain for a longer time. So in order to have the great transformation, you have to have an evolution which can be based on information, which can be pursued by collaboration of data from all across the world. And only when you have this data accessible to all, you can take out information what you need and then convert it into knowledge, which can later become wisdom, and it can help you to see through all of this and become the shapers of tomorrow's future.
Okay, I think hopefully we've gotten a little bit of a sense of the different stories of all these individuals, and I would really like to take the chance now to open it up for questions. You may either direct your question to a specific individual or to everyone on the floor. So, please feel free to pose any questions you may have. Okay. Bill.
Yeah, but it works. No, I was wondering, like in industrialization, you've got people are replaced by technology, and people do lose their jobs mostly in factories, like simple jobs. And I was wondering, these people who have lost their jobs, could they be trained to do something else? Or would you want them to work in technology? Because what are those people going to do then if they don't?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring another perspective here. Right now, everything that is based on whether you have a job or whether you're employed, everything is from the perspective of just human beings. I just want to lay this ground view that I'm 1/4 as qualified as the 1/4 amount of people in this room. But whatever I'm about to say, I just think that this is a new perspective here. We are blending so much with technology and machines today, and we are kind of being wedded to the technology and machines. So when in actual life that happens, you don't see only from your perspective. When you get married, you see from perspective of both yourself and your spouse. And only your opinion doesn't matter. So even here, the coming of technology, you are being merged with technology, and it's not just from the point of human side that I'm losing job and I'm not able to work and I'm unemployed. When you have technology and yourself working together, it comes from a third perspective, from your both perspectives, telling that what is more important and what is your goal, whether giving employment to people, and what does productivity mean, whether having people jobs, and for who is this productivity, for the society as a whole or for an individual. And once you figure these answers out, and once you go to the next stage, people who are unemployed, they have to do something to get their jobs. And we are always there to survive. That is a human instinct. And whenever we have a problem, we tend to survive, and that is what we are being trained to do, and that is what we've been doing since the start of time. So my father, when he started out, he just finished his engineering and he joined as a professor. And then they said he would get more pay if he did MEM. So he did that. And then they told you'd get more pay if you did MTech. So he did that. And then he told you'd get more pay if you do PhD. So he did a PhD. And then they told him you have to stay in the same place for 25 years to get a higher pay. So he stayed in the college for 25 years. So you adapt to changes. And once you have this technology thing coming, and once you lose your job, you try to figure out what I have to do to get a job and to feed myself and my family. So it is left for the instincts and for the future to decide.
I would like to add something to this. When you ask that question, it's very relevant that today technology has replaced jobs for many people. There are certain skill sets which can't be upgraded or merged with technology. So how do they adapt? That's your question, right? So there was a very interesting article by Peter Drucker himself, New Society of Organizations in September '92, Harvard Business Review. It's one of the timeless articles because it's relevant at every stage, even today. In that article, he had spoken about certain skill sets, like he said, if there is a woodsmith or a craftsmith, or somebody carving a stone, his skills in 300 years or 3 centuries or 4 centuries don't change much. Only thing would change is probably instead of the chisel and hammer, he would be using an electronic tool today, but the skills remain the same. So there are always certain skills which need to be only upgraded. They don't need to be actually drastically changed, but as an individual, you always need to upgrade yourself to survive. You always need to learn. The learning process has to be continuous irrespective of which field you are in. That was one perspective which was wonderful in that. So,
I think that a short remark that for the workers who lose their jobs today, these answers might be late and will not be a solution. But I think in the future, we will have a completely different perception of being employed or employ. I think that, and it has been mentioned yesterday, that employees become agents. And so my answer for this situation in 50 years from now is that we won't have, maybe, well, we will have, but that it will be less of this, you're fired. It will be more, okay, I'm going to change my job. I mean, in Austria or in the German-speaking world, maybe in Europe, I don't know, the classical work life was I was working for one company all my life. I had one profession and I was working all this time. This is not going to be anymore. We know this today. So myself, Wolfgang, will expect that I will change my job several times during my lifetime.
I'm sorry, I'm just going to quickly add a really brief comment on that. Is I think that one of the things that technology can help us do is help people apply their skills in new ways. I think, in India, for example, there have been communities of sculptors, and when there's not so much demand for the statues themselves, these people have very in-depth knowledge of all the classical proportions. And what they've actually done is been able to teach them 3D programming, for example, so they're able to animate a lot of Indian epics. And then there's a huge market that goes around the world for films. And that has relevance not just to people from the Indian community, but to share the culture around. The other thing is that for people who may have limited by geography, we can actually use technology to create markets far away from them for their goods and services. So there are many different ways we can apply to prevent the kind of ill effects that you're talking about, which are very real, and I don't think they should be brushed aside.
I have two questions. My first question is, the challenge was Drucker and, Lost in Technology Wonderland. So my first question is, how is Alice in Wonderland and Lewis Carroll related to what you wrote?
Divya had the most in-depth use of the Alice in Wonderland metaphors of all of them, so I think I'm
Thank you. For me, basically I could relate us being the Alice generation, and just like she took the plunge to go down the hole to explore what was there, technology, it's like a wonderland for us. We can explore a host variety of areas. Just like we had a Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland, in a similar way, we have a Mad Hatter in the digital world. And it's up to us how we shape our future. So if I if I connect the book with the theme, every aspect of the book is what we are currently facing. So there's a part in the book where Alice has a baby and the baby converts into a pig. So if I look at it, it's up to us. The baby is the future generation for us, and it's up to us how we transform it. So if we use technology in the right way, it will help us achieve globalization in a correct way. And if, again, like I said before, if we get involved in the dark side of technology, the future generation will be in a problematic situation. So every aspect of the book is somehow or the related of us being the Alice generation today, and it's up to us how we take it forward. I hope I will testify.
Hi. My question to all of you is, since there's the digital generation coming on in the future, I'm worried about the future generation losing their basic knowledge on how things work. Like, I asked a high school student, and well, how do you think a cell phone works? And he said, why don't the corporations make it? So they don't know, they don't have the basic knowledge on how technologies actually came to be as of today. So my my question about you in the future is, as technology develops itself, will basic knowledge be scarce, and where to a point where nobody knows how to make a simple cell phone or maybe a wheel on a car? Is it a probable future, and is there any solutions that you could see in the future?
Okay, so this point is differing, but I don't see the need for the future generation to know everything about the past. They can know it as a sake of knowledge, and they can know it out of their own interest, but it is not something which has to be compulsory for them. Say, for example, in my college, we are studying the microprocessor 8086, and that 8086 was designed such a long time back, and after coming from college next year, I have no idea what the current processors work like. And in my 4 years of engineering, I don't think I've learned anything that will help me in the industry tomorrow. So once I go there, they train me only on what I'm going to work.
Have you graduated? Your teachers may be watching.
I hope they are watching anyway. Yeah. even in the schools, even through my organization in the government schools which we teach, the kids, 10th standard kids, they don't know to do difference between 2 square and 2 cube, but they have calculators and they can get it right. And what are we looking at more? Is it at the productive part of it, or is it to be know-it-all, or is it to be jack of all trades? It depends on what we are seeing at the future. And also Drucker himself said that in the past, whatever has happened, don't dwell on it for too long. Think about today and think about tomorrow and work on it. And if you want everyone to learn everything, then we can't learn 5,000 years of history and how everything and how each thing works. Keep what you have today and build on it for tomorrow. So I think that's what I have.
Sure. I just wanted to build on it. First of all, thank you very much for your fascinating insights. Just to build on this theme about are we losing skills, has your starting point been that we, or kind of young people, are essentially end users of technology, or actually creators of technology using programming and coding? Because there is quite a distinction between developing countries and developed countries. So in the UK, for example, there has never been coding and programming taught to young people. We're all fantastic end users. We all know how to use social network, but no one actually knows how to create technology. And so I was just interested in whether your essays dwelt on or built on this concept of us as individuals who are creating technology directly.
Well, it depends on what you mean by, say, technology. If you mean if it's the scientific, well, I can speak for myself. I'm not creating the scientific, but I think using technology to sort of innovate communication. So when we talk about digital media, before you would say online media is something produced online, but online media could be electronic media because you're using video footage, audiovisual materials, which is traditionally seen as television, or you have a podcast, which is traditionally seen as radio. So I think using the technology to innovate, say, one particular area is something that we're learning and we're also, say, teaching, because somebody tries it out and says, oh, I could layer a video on top of a text and put, some graphics, some animation. Then in a way you've created some form of, communication that maybe 50 years ago was not possible. So I think we are finding ways to use technology to innovate, and then maybe when the scientists see what is happening, they create a new mobile device that allows you to record, to edit, to upload. So that's why maybe 10 years ago, it was so cool to have a Polaroid camera where you take the picture, you do this, and it comes out. But these days, you even have cameras that are linked to YouTube, and they are wireless, so you can record a video, and just with the click of a button is up there. So I think there's that communication, and there's that interdependence between different industries that is forcing everybody in their own little sphere to innovate. And coming from a developing country, what technology can do is solve problems, because if you have things like, say, agriculture that is subsistence, and you're using hoe and you're using jerry cans to water, and you have technology like an app that says, okay, during the dry season these are things you can do, and you can predict the weather and you can still grow, then you're using technology to actually benefit, and then you know that, okay, I use this seedling 2 years, I get something, rather than waiting 5 years. So I think it really forces you to innovate.
Well, to this latter question, I don't know if we are using chairs, and who in this room is asking why are we not becoming experts in how to create a chair, or I'm using this microphone, do I know how to build it? So I see this a bit the other way around. We have the internet, and now we're asking, can I be part of creating it? And I think yes, but maybe we ask this question because we are able to actually teach that. We could now teach everyone to be a carpenter, sort of. So this question, on one side, I'm feeling it's unfair to the future times because no one asked how to create a table. But it is good in terms because now we can actually teach that. I think this is one thing a teacher of the future could be, even already in kindergarten. I mean, I'm not a coding person, so I'm talking naively now, if you can teach that. But I'm aware, I think you could have translating tools. The other question, being afraid of technology, yeah. I mean, this for me boils down to the question of what kind of relationships people have with each other. And I think that here at the moment we face a fundamental change possibly, which is that we are eradicating hierarchies. And that, I mean, being a kindergarten teacher, the way I work is in the first 2 or 3 months of each year, I allow everything. Children can do whatever they want. My position this moment is to guarantee safety, right? In these 3 months, we have absolute chaos. Children don't clean their stuff, they fight with each other, there's a lot of chaos, and you might, if you come in this moment, you'll say, hey Wolfgang, what kind of teacher are you? This is all going wrong. But no, after these 3 months, you will have self-defined children who know exactly what they want to do, what they want to learn, with whom they want to learn it, they know how to deal with conflicts. Because in these 3 months, I'm there to help them exactly with these things. Oh, you don't know which toy you want to play with or what you want to explore? Aha, okay, I can show you a couple things and then you go from there. So my point is that, yes, this technology, if we are honest with it, will create chaos. Because a lot of people will want to learn a lot of things. A lot of people will want to be entrepreneurs and will want to have access to the things maybe us, the privileged ones, have access to. So we have to analyze, and this is my question maybe, are we capable of taking this chaotic situation? Can we deal with it? Do we have someone who can help us if it gets too chaotic? But I know, I can almost promise you that after this, we'll have fantastic citizens, which back to your question in the beginning, how to help those workers who lost their job. In the future, they will not have lost their job. They will change what they're doing and see it as a potential.
It's a wonderful question because you're talking about the difference between technology creators and technology users. When I look at it, I see a very simple aspect. I see the greatest technology creator is actually the technology user. I'll give you a simple example. Drucker always said that we couldn't imagine a world in which our grandparents were born, in the world in which our parents grew up. Today, I can't imagine the world in which 5 years ago I was living. There was no Wi-Fi in India, at least. So I can't imagine today getting up and there is no Wi-Fi connection because I'm too lazy to go and plug it with the cable. So what happens is, at the end of the day, I am a technology user. So I feel that, okay, this is what I'm already using, but this is what I would like. So I end up becoming the technology creator. The people who are like, for example, coding, ending up creating that software or tool, they are just the skill sets behind it, which can be learned at any level. But for me, the technology creator is always the end user because it's because of them who end up suggesting that this is a radical development or a change that we would like. They are the ones who are actually the technology creators. That's the kind of, it converges at some point.
Yeah, and I'd like to add one more point to that, to Sir's question on people who are taught programming and who use the end product. I think programming language also it has developed over time. To give a non-scientific example, when I was in second year, I got a B in my C programming. And in my third year, I got an A in my C++ programming. And I hope this year I'll get an S in my Java programming. So what's happening is that the things are becoming easier as I go, developing softwares and using software which are more updated. So nobody uses C programming from the basics now. You use Java to do something else. And maybe there's another higher language you can use later. And what happens is that it is seamlessly transitioning from being a tool to being something which you do normally. Like you have to know how to use a product, that's it. You take out your iPad and you know you have to type it. But you need not know how the typing is being happen inside. So again, it is based on what pool you're working in and what field you want. And if that person in UK is interested in changing the way programs are written, then maybe he can learn it on himself online forums. But as a rule, as a generality and as something permanent, it is not required for everyone to learn all this. So we are good as end users and it has been proven that we can use things better than create things.
I think only one point I would add to that is that, I think early on when the internet was in its infancy, there was a lot of concern about a digital divide. And if we look today how far things have come, where you see some of the most innovative applications of technology and uses from far corners of the world. I think Africa in terms of mobile payments, you see, some of the most interesting, innovative uses of social media from the Arab world. So there's a lot, I think the thing that I take away from that is that something that's well designed has legs, and people will use the technology in a way that suits them to fill the gaps in their society and address needs that are previously unmet in ways that we may never have expected. And to your point of whether we'll learn the past or learn basic knowledge, I think there's a lot of potential to make sure the past is remembered. I think whether it's anything from Steven Spielberg's Holocaust project, where he's able to use technology to make sure those stories are not lost, to people being able to discover things like Drucker or their own history, how many people would have access to the libraries where we could find those original materials versus being able to access them and making that available and bringing that into our consciousness. I think if we use it correctly, we can preserve much more than we lose.
Hi, I'm Erica. Well, I can echo what you said about all of you, so it's really a pleasure listening to all of you, and I love the energy in the room. Now, we've talked about technology. I'd like to talk also about leadership a little bit. So what is your definition of leadership? And you talked about transformation. So how will you take your people, your employees, through this transformation? So what means leadership to you?
Why don't we start at this and this time and just work our way back? So maybe start with you, Sam.
Yeah, probably the best quote I heard on leadership was the definition of a leader is the finest example of everything he would like to see in his followers. And I think that's sort of something I'd like to see in a leader, somebody who you can trust, somebody you can trust and who also trusts in you. And, it's sort of a mutual sort of thing. You see on the same level and stuff like that, and you connect on the same level, and there's always like respect there, and I sort of think like the authoritarian approach of a leader, which you see a lot, just doesn't work. And I've seen a lot of that working at some jobs. I've seen authoritarian leaders, and I hope not. Yeah. And so I think that's probably what I would define as a good leader, as somebody who I can see myself following, and stuff like that.
That's a nice question, thank you. I believe that a leader is one who thinks that there can be other leaders too. And a leader is one who feels himself as a volunteer, and and that his employees should also feel as volunteers. Kind of like saying, you're not just supposed to do the work for which you get paid or for which you have a strongest incentive in terms of monetary contributions or in terms of economic gains. The knowledge worker, which has been defined so far, he feasts on knowledge, and knowledge is his food, which comes from a large source of information. So if I want to be a leader tomorrow, I want to see my employees work in particular aspects based on their interests, and who comes and tells me that I don't want to work in this is dumb, I want to do something else. And I as a leader should be able to accept what he is saying and send him to another place. And if there is no one working in that area, I want to make him a leader to that particular field so that he can lead others to transition from what they were doing to what they want to do, and which in turn leads to productivity. And I also need to find someone to fill the void there. And if the void is justified that he moved out of there because it is in fact really dumb, and if that idea was mine, then I need to be able to transition that, yes, even I'm dumb. So I need to move away from that, and I need to find a more suitable leader to replace me or to complement me in a way to make me a better leader. So that's my definition.
If I link it, so if you look at the Maslow's need hierarchy, a leader is someone who's able to satisfy your esteem and self-actualization needs. If someone is helping you to empower yourself, I think that's, for me, in my opinion, that's how a leader should be. And even Drucker talks about of how we need one force, one master who can command us. A ship needs a captain. So a leader is someone who doesn't manage people but leads them. And if I can just give a specific, like if I look at Narendra Modi in India, he is currently acting like a leader. He is empowering the youth by using social media. He is working on every aspect of how a leader should be. So for me, a leader is someone who can empower us.
A difficult question. I have the feeling it depends on what the ideology of a company is. I mean, I think as long as we're trying to make money, I think having employees that think themselves will not happen. if the idea, and I take this back as a comparison now, actually, in a very basic view, it is the relationship that a mother has to her child. I think this relationship continues in our societies. The teacher to the student, the employer to the employee. There's a lot of things which are not so different in these relationships. And what I mean is, can you care? Do you want to care about the employee? And I'm not in a capacity to talk about management because I don't know. I just know that it depends what you expect from your employee. And I think the children that I educate in my kindergarten don't expect them to follow rules just because they're rules or just because someone says so. They will think creatively. They will actually know what they want. And if a company is about that, to enable you to reach your potential, then for sure we have a different sort of leadership. Then you're more like maybe a coordinator of passions. Whereas if your company has to reach a certain output or expectations, I don't know how this will work. I mean, in the music field, maybe an orchestra, a conductor. It depends what's the objective of making music. If you want to have one person designing the music outcome, then it will be the conductor to say, okay, you play louder, you play not so loud, you play faster. Then there is a dictator basically saying, okay, this is what we need. But if you want, it will be interesting to know what happens if you have an orchestra that just plays whatever they feel like. I mean, okay, we need to develop this example, so. But I'm trying to say it really depends on the objective. And I have the feeling, and this is maybe a final point, yesterday up there, I think still we think too much in terms of money. I mean, are we all honest about why we are here? I mean, if anyone here can immediately say, I'm not here because I want to make more money in the future, then raise your hand now immediately. Look at me. No one raises his hand. So even myself. Of course, we're here to make money, but and this is not a bad thing. But I think we are not yet, and we will fall into this if we don't take care of it. Is the internet provides the possibility of eliminating hierarchies. I think a lot of people, managements, should be nervous in the positive sense, of course. But some will see it as a threat because all of a sudden everyone can be informed. And one very specific example is if I, in the classical formal educational system, if I'm a teacher and I'm telling you, okay, World War I started then and finished then, and these were the armies involved, you as a student have immediate possibility of cross-referencing, of checking that information. In fact, you'll be even faster than me telling you this. Once I finish my sentence, you already know that. So if this relationship will be changed because we have other technologies. So the educated children that come out of my kindergarten will challenge all the managements.
I think a leader needs to have vision. So in the sense of starting Nolly Silver Screen, I didn't have any management experience or, a management degree, but you sort of make it up as it goes. But I think from everybody's personal experience, having received leadership, okay, this is what works, this doesn't work. And over, with the technology, people are asking more questions than just taking answers. So in terms of my leadership in, say, running the magazine, it's based on a lot of trust because the people who work for me are all over the world. Some of them I've never met. Some of them just send an email, say, from Egypt, I want to write for you. So you have that relationship of trust, but you have to build that. And how do you build that? Is by being accountable, by responding to emails on time, by giving feedback, by keeping your word. So when that trust is built, then they're able to respond more positively, and also stepping back and saying, oh, this person is not responding, but rather than come down with a big hammer and saying, oh, you're out of line, is engaging with them. Oh, perhaps you're having a lot of work. Would you need a week off? Yes, I actually need a week off. No problem. And then you'd see that the time the person comes back, the person is more receptive and wants to do more work. So I think it's more of a two-way conversation and being able to take feedback and say, yes, I did it the wrong way, and this is how I can improve, or what are your ideas? And every time finding a way to say, thank you. No matter how much you're paying people, people are still human, and that's what separates us from the machines. We have hearts, we have emotions. So thanking them, giving them feedback, and letting them know that this is a journey and we're all in it together. If I succeed, it's because of you, and if I feel is also because of you. So if they are part of that vision, then it's easy to also empower them that in their own sphere, they're leaders, because as they deliver and they deliver their work, I also deliver, and together we deliver as leaders.
I have a very simple view about leadership. I feel the moment you can influence or touch somebody's life, you are a leader. So if you have influenced my life, you are a leader for me. If I have touched somebody's life, I'm a leader for you. That is one point, because at any point of time, if we are able to make any valuable human contribution to anyone, you are a leader in their sense, because that is what the change is all about. So that's all about.
Just, I think we're just about out of time, so I'd like to just close with one comment. When we're talking about this issue of leadership, especially as it pertains to technology, I remember going to a presentation by Salman Khan, who's the founder of Khan Academy, which is basically trying to deliver a world-class free education to everyone in the world. And he's reached at least 4 million children estimated by now, so he's helping poor children and everyone around the world understand math and help people in developed countries understand their credit card statement through Bank of America. And he talked about how he was developing his web presence, and the first thing that all the venture capitalists said to him was, wait a minute, with this platform that you've developed and doing this through YouTube, we can actually have a whole network of teachers around the world teaching different subjects. And he stopped them and said, I think that's really cool, but I don't think that's the way I want to do it, because if I look at my own life, I only ever gave my best for 2 or 3 people. And for me, the one person I could never bear to disappoint was my mother. And so I want to do this and be that one person whose voice is heard from the time you're learning basic addition all the way through calculus and organic chemistry. So I think that whether or not you have a new set of tools at your disposal, you still have to have an insight about what is meaningful for you and what might be meaningful for others. But when teachers were threatened with what he was doing, he said, I'm not trying to replace you. I actually want to develop materials you can use to help engage students. And so he's actually deployed his tool in the San Francisco public school district and said, I want to see if teachers cooperating and using this tool with me helps boost math scores, because that's what it's all about. We're not trying to replace the human touch, we're trying to complement it. So I think always, and no matter how revolutionary you believe you are, also understanding that there is a role that you have to play, and looking for areas where you can complement others is another key to people accepting or rejecting technology, and that's something that we can all keep in mind. But I just want to say congratulations to all of you. I wish you all the very best. And I do want to urge all of you, unfortunately, because of the limitations of time, we weren't able to hear from everybody who submitted an essay, but I think there are some amazing essays out there. I encourage all of you to access them and read them and look at the videos as well. Thank you so much.